Lesson 5. In Lesson 5 we're talking about addition and subtraction word problems. And in these problems we've got to read them carefully. They're testing our reading just as much as they're testing our math. Sometimes the math is actually easier than the reading, but we need to find patterns within these problems to be successful in solving them. So this first problem, the Duke counted 5,260 people. Then the Duchess counted 4,720 people. How much greater was the Duke's count? Now, in this, we could go ahead and we could draw a picture, but if you thought about it, drawing a picture of 5,260 people, that would be a little time consuming and a little ridiculous. We don't need to do that. But what we could do is we could draw a bubble for the Duke, 5,260 people in there. Then we could draw a bubble for the Duchess, and we'll make the Duchess pink. 4,720 people. And the question is, how much greater was the Duke's count? So we need to figure out how much bigger the Duke's count was than the Duchess's count. So in this problem we're going to have to subtract 5,260, and from that we're going to subtract 4,720, and we'll get our final answer. If we look at this, we know 0 minus 0 is 0, 6 minus 2 is 4, and then we have to borrow. We're going to borrow from that 5, we're going to get a 4. We've got 12 left over, 12 minus 7 is 5, and 4 minus 4 is 0. So the answer would be 540, and it's got to be 540 people because we've got a word problem. And we'd be all done. The next one that we're looking at is here. 417 birds were in the trees at 8 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, the number had increased to 942. How many birds arrived between 8 and 9 o'clock? So in this one, we could draw a timeline. Let's say we had 8 o'clock. We don't know if it's PM or AM. Okay? So let's just call this AM because it's the morning. 8 AM. Then we have our 9 AM. 417 birds were in the trees at 8 o'clock. So if we have 417 birds, again, we could draw out 417 birds. If you love to draw, well, you could, but it would take a lot of time. So let's say 417, and then we'll circle it. 417 birds at 8 AM. And then by 9 AM, the number had increased to 942. The number had increased to 942. What we need to do is figure out how many birds arrived between 8 and 9 o'clock. So in this time frame, we've got to figure out how many more birds were added onto the 417 to get us to a total of 942. What operation do you think we should do? Addition or subtraction? Well, in this problem, since we're figuring out how many more birds were added on to 417 to get to 942, we're going to have to, we can draw it like this, 417 plus some amount, we'll call it A, is equal to 942. That some amount that we're adding on has to be between 417 and 942. It can't be bigger than 942. So we can't add. We're going to have to subtract in this problem. We're going to have to say 942 minus 417. Now when we go through the math again, we'll borrow from the 4. We've got a 3. We've got 12. 12 minus 7 is 5. Pardon that. 3 minus 1 is 2. And 9 minus 4 is going to give us 5. So our answer would have to be 525 birds. 525 birds came between 8 AM and 9 AM. We can box it so it's easy to see that answer. And we're all done. These word problems, our big thing is looking for patterns and making sure we understand exactly what the problem is telling us. At sunrise, many ducks were on the pond. Then 425 ducks flew away. 642 ducks remained on the pond. How many ducks were on the pond at sunrise? So if we were to draw out a big pond, okay, the big pond's going to have all of our ducks. And we don't know how many ducks that would be, because that's what we're asked. How many ducks were on the pond at sunrise? So I'll put a question mark there. At sunrise, many ducks were on the pond. Here we have it. Then 425 ducks flew away. So we're going to have to subtract 425 ducks from whatever was originally there. And then it tells us 642 ducks remained on the pond. 642 ducks remained on the pond. So we've got a problem that looks like this. What do you think we're going to use? Addition or subtraction to solve? We've got to have some big number. We're taking 425 away from it to get to 642. If you said addition, you were right, because the number has to be bigger than both of these. So we're going to add 425 plus 642 to get our final answer. Well, these ones are nice because we've got 5 plus 2 is going to give us 7, 2 plus 4 is going to give us 6, and 4 plus 6 is going to give us 10. So we get 1,067, and this one would have to be 1,067 ducks were on the pond. We don't need to write on the pond. We can just write 1,067 ducks, and we're all done. Box that answer so it's nice and easy to see. Next problem. George had $5.42. Then his mom gave him some money. He now has $9.65. How much money did his mom give him? So George had $5.42. Let's write it out. $5.42. Then his mom gave him some money. So $5.42 plus some amount. We'll put a question mark here to represent what our problem is. He now has $9.65 is equal to $9.65. We're adding something to $5.42 to get to $9.65. We're looking for a pattern, and the pattern has to be subtraction here. We're going to have to subtract $5.42 from $9.65 to find our answer because it lies somewhere in the middle. So $9.65, we can add the money in later, minus $5.42, and we can go ahead and solve. Now straight away I see this problem has no borrowing and regrouping, so we can go from left to right. 9 minus 5 is 4. Decimal point always comes straight down. 6 minus 4 is 2, and 5 minus 2 is going to give us 3. So we have $4.23. We're going to put our unit in there so we know what we're talking about. That's how much money his mom gave him in order for him to have a total of $9.65. That's it for our lesson for today. We'll work on lesson practice in class next time I see you. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon or evening.